think one of the very special things about this performance is that we are working with data from a library that collects sounds of extinct and endangered species. So the soundscape of the first room will be precisely composed out of these ghosts, animals that are lost forever, so rather a very emotional landscape. And the performers are performing in this soundscape, also talking about the extinction factors and so on, a pseudo-scientific performative lecture, but already here with some poetry. And then the parkour of the piece goes into the next room, which is the stage, and there things get messier and much more performative, much more into physicalities that are then, of course, linked to the extinction narratives, maybe. And also we're using a lot of poetry, pastoral poetry from Theokritis and Vergil, but also newer translations and interpretations of the genre. So the relation between nature and culture in a theatrical, performative space. So one of the questions was indeed like, how would pastoral poetry look like today from, knowing all the facts and data about climate change. So it has this ecological perspective on pastoral, while in the antiquity, nature seemed to be idyllic or fine, but still, territorialized and politicized even back then. Well, today the relation to nature is acute. There's a crisis there. So we tried to write pastoral poetry with that in mind. How things burn around us, and that's the new normal. Pretty much the nature of our time, or the beauty of disasters. So definitely the text, the poems that are performed, they're also translated somehow in movement. So there's a very strong connection between like embodying the text and performing it, and what kind of gesture or physicality or impulsive reaction collides with the poem. So every word is translated and choreographed. As the poem is written, most of the movement and the gesture and the actions with that word kind of go together, and often they are a direct translation, of times a very trashy, caricature-like translation, and sometimes rather impulsive or more talkative, inspired also by the rhythm, because the old poems have a very specific rhythm that we also keep, and it dictates the movement. It becomes the music for this dance. So we dance on poems. The music is composed by AGF, and she's herself an eco-feminist. And a lot of the music will have this sounds of lost nature, but of course then becoming synthetic and glitched and overload and fragmented, and it becomes like an overload of the noise of extinction, basically. So intense sounds, but also there will be clearings, so meadowy spots where poetry and voice and singing will be part of this very electronic soundscape, or close to noise, between noise and electronics. Also parts, there are two flutes, two Romanian shepherd's flutes, and a violin, and we might end up having parts of Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, the Pastoral Symphony, some excerpts maybe, if not an entire movement. We'll see.